It's quite the arm workout. Hey, Duff here. Second time shooting the video. I was going to shoot this with my 361R, and it seems to be frozen in that state. I tried to stop a clip and it just stopped there, and I don't really feel like messing with it right now, so we're just going to quickly recap here on my GoPro 7 what the deal is. I have my S18 sitting here on the bench. It's been sitting here for several days because I haven't had time to address this. But what I've been wanting to do is to do a couple of the more simple suspension tweaks that are posted all over the place right now on the internet to help with the movement of the S18. There were some decisions in the assembly process here with the S18 that were less than ideal. My wheel, even though I just got it a couple weeks ago, appears to be one of the earlier batches. The most recent batches, instead of having a removable metal block here, they have a solid connection here. They basically changed the framing right here with the newest models. Mine did not have that. I had the removable block. I removed it. The reason I removed it is multiple people have found that leaving that block in there causes excessive binding of the slide tubes. So I took that out. That's the first thing I did. The other issue that they have is the way that this linkage was put together. I'm not sure if they've changed some of this with the very recent build, but the way that they decide to attach some of these joints, they actually generate friction. The way this joint comes from KingSong, you have a washer here and then a bolt that goes through, presses this washer against the linkage. The end result is it creates friction here instead of allowing it to utilize the bearing that's in there. Some of the models, and again, I'm not sure about this particular unit because I don't feel like taking it all the way apart to check it yet. Some of them also had issues where on some of the other connections here in the linkage, they would have a split lock washer against a bearing. And if you're familiar with what a lock washer looks like, it's like a little piece of metal that that's cut basically, and that cut allows it to dig into the surface to keep a nut or bolt from turning. Well, in this case, what it does is it digs into the side of the bearing and basically destroys it. So again, that's another way to damage the bearing, increase friction. So, but I'm doing the things that I can handle without ripping the whole wheel apart because I don't want to rip my whole wheel apart yet. You know, if it's good enough after doing these things, I'm just going to leave it as is. So the main thing I wanted to address was this one here, this connection here, the connection that has the washer and a bolt on top of it. Now I removed it, and I've cleaned this out somewhat, but you can still see a little bit of the residue of the paint that's on the side of the bearing there. But what I'm going to do to address this is I'm going to remove the washer, and I'm going to use these little spacers that I bought. These are listed on one of the forums, and the reason that you have the spacers in there is it brings the level of the screw up similar to how it is here. If you don't have the spacers in there, this probably wouldn't tighten all the way. You'd have a gap here at the end, which would not be good. So we're going to use spacers to bring it up. Now in the 360 camera, I also mentioned how I had to buy a long set of Allen wrenches to make this work. Specifically, you want long Allen wrenches that have a ball fitting on one side. The reason you want that is to get on the fitting on the opposite side here so you can turn this out. You need one of these, a 5mm long Allen wrench, and then a conventional length Allen wrench to turn it out from the top. And you basically have to feed this down through the linkage to get it in here, and then you turn it loose. So let me put some bearings on here, Let me put some of these bushing pieces on here without dropping them all over the place and on the floor like a moron. I've already dropped a number of things on the floor. All right, so let's see, right, there's 4 of them. All right, so I'm gonna put these 5 spacers on here, and they're very thin spacers. Okay, not sure how well that'll show up, but we're gonna put them back in here. I should be able to tighten this up a good part of the way before having to secure it from the back, hopefully. Not that far. Okay. So now we're going to get this back on from the bottom. Yeah, if you don't have this long Allen wrench, you really have very little options unless you're going to take the shock out. Then you might be able to get to this, but it's still not going to be exactly fun. Okay. To really turn on this hard, I have to secure this with like a vice grips. Let there be light. Okay. So just to show you the path I'm going through this gap here to get up here. That's the way that I'm going to secure the other side. If you want to see some of the silly stuff going on to try to get this, okay, do that. Now I should be able to tighten. Okay, it feels relatively tight. All right, so now see how that fitting is after putting that in there, and now that spins very easily. Okay, should be much less friction in that joint at least. All right, so I'm going to repeat for the other side. Okay, the one other thing I'm going to do before I flip it over is I'm pushing these dust seals out. I'm just using, in my case, I'm using a 3D printing tweezers to get it started. Let's see, that one came out very easily. This one's not so easy. All right, got these both slid up out of the way. That one was rather sticky and it has some sort of white substance on it. Not sure what that is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use stanchion oil, which is what Jack from KingSong actually showed in one of his videos. Supposedly this is good stuff. I'm going to use this little straw to hopefully shoot it down in here and close this back up so I have good lubrication on my sliders. Okay, it comes with a little red straw so you can kind of shoot it where you want it. And a little cloth to help rub it in, but we're just going to shoot some in there. Pushing these seals back in, hopefully. Okay, that side does, all right. That side, the side that's stuck to come out doesn't want to really go back in that easily either. Also, they talk about shooting your other joints. Jack talked about that, shooting your other joints with this. A lot of them I can't really do anything with unless I would take it apart further, so I'll shoot some in here. At least as of right now, my slide tubes feel very slippery. Damn it, this thing does not want to stay in here. My dust boot on this side does not want to stay in now. Okay, flipping it over. Okay, just like the other side, I'm putting 5 of these spacers on. And these spacers are 1.25 millimeter lengthening shims for 12 millimeter shoulder screws. I'll try to remember to put the Amazon link in the description below if you're interested in something like this. Get this started. Okay. All right, once again, that has better movement than it did before. So now we're just going to pop these dust covers off the sliders again. Okay, those popped off easier than the other side. Okay, I got my stanchion oil in there. Push these back in place. So I said, I don't remember if I said it on a video recently, I said it somewhere, that one of the things that I do like about the V11 is the suspension, to me, is more of like a set it and forget it. There's just not as many moving parts. It's simpler. Obviously, it's not as robust. I've seen some people putting some crazy shocks on their S18s. You know, you can trick this out a lot more, but it also requires a lot more homework to get it working. I kind of like the simplicity of the V11, to be quite honest with you. Getting the S18 dialed in is it can be a chore, really. And like I said, if I wanted to be very, very complete, I would be ripping this thing apart and taking each suspension joint apart. And normally that you shouldn't have to do that, but unfortunately that is a reality with the way that this was put together, that it could be a possibility, it could be a problem. It might not be. It might be 100% fine to you, and if you ride it and it feels great to you and it's not making a bunch of weird noises, ride it, just let it go. But I just want to do these couple simple things just to at least make it a little bit more friction free, let's put it that way. Low friction is good. I like low friction in many aspects of life. All right, so now that I have that done, I have this valve looking right at me. I might as well put air in my tire, right? Because I did think that felt a little bit low when I was riding it last. So let's can I get on this without an extension? Wow. Can't tell you last time I was able to get on an EUC valve without using an extension or an adapter of some sort. All right, I'm going to set it to 30 psi. I generally like my tire pressures on the lower side because I find that they feel better at higher speeds. When I did do my brief road test with this, I did comment that the tire did feel a little bit low, and according to my inflator, it was down. Whoa, it was down to 21 psi. So that is definitely on the low side. Now we're right around 30-ish. All right, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to now inflate the suspension to my preferred. So we're gonna get all the air out of it again. And this is following KingSong recommended technique. Air's out, push it down to fully expose the valves. I need to find my little block that you're supposed to put in here. Do not throw away for pumping suspension. Little block goes here. And now we can pump the suspension. All right, I'm gonna pump it to probably about 220 on the positive chamber and 80 on the negative. It seems to work out pretty well for me. And this takes a while with this pump, so I'll be back.
2 hours later.
It's quite the arm workout. All right, it's about 220. And my riding weight is probably around 85 kilograms or so, between 85 and 90 kilograms, something like that. All right, so now we're gonna do the negative. We're gonna pump that to around 80-ish psi. Okay, the shock is pumped. Let's turn it on. We gotta get that block out. And I found that I need to stand on it to do this effectively. All right, blocks out. Feels pretty good to me. Yeah. But again, ride testing is really the only way to tell for sure. Yeah, quick tip, if you stand on it and the suspension arms are protruding way outside the body, you don't have enough pressure in your suspension. Either that or your shock is faulty, or you reversed pressure in your negative and your positive chamber. And again, I love telling myself, when I initially set this up, I did exactly that. I had a brain fart for a second and I put 220 in my negative and the 80 in my positive, and the end result when that happens is your suspension will be jutting out the back all the time. So yeah, Make sure you remember, this is your positive chamber, this is your negative. All right, so I don't really have time to go out and do a ride test. Oh wow. Just looking at some other things that people have complained about. Okay, it's still intact. There's a little metal tab right here, right there by the pedals, that some people have complained that it's broken for them. It actually assists with keeping the pedal up locked in place, but I guess a lot of people have had that piece break for some reason. It does look like rather thin metal. The good news is that there's 2 screws. You can replace it easily if you have to. So anyways, here you go. S18 is, really? No, okay, it's just a reflection. S18 is ready to do some more road testing. I'm gonna get it out on the road this weekend. I want to do a new round of Ave Maria rides, and I'm going to follow the pattern that I did with the Sherman. I'm not going to keep it at 20 miles an hour. I'm going to ride a realistic speed for me, which will probably be closer to 25. And then with the stats at the end of the ride, the average ride speed tracked by Darknessbot will be part of the numbers that are taken into consideration when you're comparing various EUCs. So that's what I'd like to do. I want to do that on this. I want to do it on the V11. So that's the game plan. And if I do have more issues with the shocks over time, if I have binding and noise, because I've heard some squeaking and cracking and some scary sounding sounds coming out of S18s. If I notice any of that going on, obviously I'm going to have to do some more remediation, but hopefully that won't be the case. Just to show you again quickly here, here's the 2 screws that I messed with. And actually with the suspension pumped up, I can't really get to it at all that way, can I? Oh, I can. Okay, there you go. So right there you can see that's how you get on the back of the screw. This set wasn't cheap. I think it was like 20 or 30 bucks at Home Depot. So anyways, yeah, enough rambling. Weekend's almost here. Fun times can start. And that's all I have for you for now. Till next time, Duffman out. Another disjointed, weird video. My specialty. Stay there. Whew. All right. Good times, good times.